All right, so I thought I would record this project. I mean, why not? And upload it. Maybe it'll help somebody. So this is a Suburban. I recently did a transfer case and transmission on this. It needed the transfer case. Transmission was high mileage, so the owner decided why not do them both. And so I did those, got it all back together. They were driving it up the canyon, and lo and behold, it started making bearing noise on the front wheel bearings. So we decided we'll do both sides of it. It was the right side, bearing was shot. So I'm going to show you doing the left side. I've already done the right side, and I hate these. These are one of my least favorite things to do, because these are vehicles where we live that spend their life on salted, sanded, snowy roads, and there's just so much rust and corrosion down under there to ever get these hub wheel bearing assemblies out. It is just a pain. But I was able to do the right side, and I thought, you know, it might help somebody out if I show you what I do, and we'll do the left side. What we're going to do first is we're going to pull this whole caliper and the mounting bracket off, and we're going to remove the wheel speed sensor. Wire up here, unclip it, pull it out here, pull it out here. This presses in here, this presses in here, and then this clips in to this little bracket here. And then we'll remove this bracket, and so we get the hydraulic hose to the brake caliper off. Then once we get this off, we'll set this up out of the way, and we will go to that point. One thing to note is these that press in here, they almost always break off when you're trying to extract these and pull them out. So I don't even worry about it. I'll just break it off and not mess any time or spend any time messing with it, and then I'll just drill that plastic that's left broken off in there out. These will usually come out, and the one up around here, you can't really see it very well, but I don't know if you can see it in there at all, but they usually come out pretty well too. And of course I can't find my fork that I put under those to pull them out with, so I'm just going to do it with a big flathead screwdriver and needle nose. So we'll get started on that. Yeah, it's not. This is a little bit hard to do with one hand. So, yeah, lo and behold, it broke off. And like I said, these we can usually get to come out. Okay. All right. Now this here, these little tabs expand out here. Just compress them and push it back through like that. And of course, it's a two-hand job also. Let me see if I can do this while I'm holding the camera. And if not, and it's not, I'm going to set the camera down, and I'm going to remove it again. There's just two tabs. These just come through that and expand out. So you just compress it and pull. Okay, yeah, if you can see that. But that just presses in there. Like that. You just kind of squeeze it together, pull it, it comes out okay. Alright, this one up back behind here, which you can't really see. There's a tab that you pull up on the one from on the connection from the wiring harness. So you pull up on that tab, and then it just disconnects. If you can see it here, just this tab right here that you would just pull up, and then that pops right out. And then this one again presses in there onto the side of this where the shock connects in there. And that one broke off too, so actually that just disconnected from this. Here, this just slides over it. So I'm not going to worry about removing that right now. I'll do that when we're ready to go back together. Okay, there we go. All right. Well, so let's start. I'm going to remove this, and so I can get this out of the way, and I believe that's a 10 millimeter. And then I'm going to remove the 2 bolts on the back of this bracket that mounts the caliper on there, and then just pull that whole thing off, set it up out of the way. And those are 15 millimeter, and those can often be bears if they've been in there for quite a while, which I think these have. They've probably never come out in the life of this vehicle. This is I believe it's a 2004, so it's been quite a while. There's so much corrosion and rust on these vehicles. We'll get that out of the way. All right. Throw that little bolt back in there so I don't lose it. All right, there's one here. And these are really beasts. Oh, these are. I broke that one loose. Break the one on the bottom loose. Yeah, I know you're saying, why don't you wear gloves? And a couple of reasons. I do get that question from people, why don't you wear gloves? Well, usually about a quarter of the way through one of these projects, there's not much left of the gloves, so I've just given up. And I just had a lot better feel without gloves. Actually, I can't remember what I said on these. Did I say these are 15 millimeter? I don't know why I said that. They are 18. I probably said it because I'm aging. Which also makes these projects. Alright, that looks pretty darn good. Smooth. They didn't complain of any braking issues as far as warping on those rotors. So set that rotor aside and save it for later. And here we go. Here's the lovely beast. Okay, so In the past, when I've done these, I've tried to just kind of finesse them out and not really worry too much and hope that they would come out, and they never do. So on these vehicles, what I do anymore is, first thing I want to do is get the half shaft completely out of the way. It's just in the way, and in order to really get at these, let's see if I can show you here. Let me grab the other camera. All right, let's see if I can get around here. You see on the back of that, there are 3 bolts that now hold this hub up against that face, hold it in place. One here, one at the top. And then there is one on the other side, down here, if you can see it, right in there. Okay. And it's hard enough to get those out as is, especially as long as this has been living its life in the snow. And so if you can get that half shaft out of the way, it just makes life a lot easier. So in order to do that, we need to remove the stabilizer. And once we do that, then if you can see back here, let me see if I can get my hand back in there and show you. Right, if you can see this here, there are 6 of these bolts that mount that half shaft back in there. They come out and then it just gets out of the way, but drops out of the way, and then we can move this out, drop that down and pull it out, but that stabilizer is going to be in the way, so we got to get that off in order to get the half shaft out of the way. So let's do that, and we'll go from there. And in order to get that off, down under on the bottom of this, down underneath, is a 14 millimeter. And then up here, I'll put some vice grips, locking pliers on that to hold it. And I'll get the impact wrench down under there. And just hopefully that thing's just gonna back out just fine. Okay. And I'm gonna get a little bit of penetrating oil just up on top of that. So once it starts moving, that'll help a little bit. And there we go. Okay. Okay, lock that on. Let's grab the 14 millimeter here. Yeah, sorry, this isn't going to be the best camera work. As tight as things are here, most of this is two-hand stuff. But hopefully it'll be beneficial anyway. All right. Loose. Get off. Okay, there we go. There's that stabilizer. Just put it all back into one piece. So, put that on parts. Alright, there we go. Let's get that out of the way a little bit. And now I'm going to remove the 6 bolts that I showed you. And I believe those are 15 millimeter. And there we go. 15 millimeter. It is. Okay. Come on. Alright, let's straighten this out. And drop it down. Turn that on there. This is a little easier on the other side because we don't have this skid plate. It's in the way quite as much, but it's still doable over here. Okay, there we go. All right, got that out of place, out of the way. And now comes the trying to get these bolts out. That are in there. And now we've got access to here. We'll get a little penetrant on there. There's one here, and one over on the other side. Now, these are 15. These two down here, there's pretty good access. This one up here on the top, I don't know if you can see it. Let me grab the other camera and zoom it in here a little bit closer. So like I said, we've got the bolt here, got the bolt on the other side that's across from that, and we have this one here. The issue with this one is they tell you, the recommendation is that you use an end wrench to try and break this loose. Well, the problem with that, and what always happens with the end wrenches, if you do have a 6-point end wrench, you could try that, but I've found that it's best just to put a socket on here. The issue with putting a socket on here, if you can see this, is you've got that stud coming down from that ball joint, and that hits that socket and it doesn't allow it to sit flat on that, and so then you're trying to loosen it with your socket on there at an angle, which then tends to strip the head out, and you're not really any better doing that than you are with an end wrench. So what I do is I take my angle grinder here. We only need about a 1/16 ground off the bottom of that, and then that socket will fit in there just fine. We can put the breaker bar on it. We can break that loose without risking stripping the head of that bolt. So anyway, that's just what I do. If you don't want to do that, you can do it your own way. All right, so like I said, we're just gonna move that socket out of the way. We're gonna take about 1/16 or so off the bottom of this. Okay, there. So we cut about a 1/16. I maybe went a little more, but we're still fine. And there we go. That socket sits on there perfectly flush and flat. And now we can put the breaker bar on that and break all 3 of those loose. Yeah, you're just not going to do this with an end wrench, I'm sorry. That's a lot of force just to break that loose. And a second. That's about everything sort of jumping on it. I'm not a real big guy, but I don't consider myself a wimp either. Yeah, you just try that with an end wrench. Okay, we're all broken loose, and this is just kind of a preview of what's to come, trying to get this hub out of there. Without getting that half shaft out of the way, it's really hard to do this. Plus, with what it's going to take to get this hub out of here, really don't want that in the way. And there are a lot of different ways, well, a few different ways to go about this. And first of all, I'm going to get us a little penetrating oil back in there on the back side of that hub slash bearing. I'm not sure this really does any good, but it can't hurt. So one of the things that you can do is you can knock a couple of these studs out, or at least one of them, and you do that because they're too long to actually come out. You cut it off here and then knock the piece out. Then you can put a bolt with a nut on the side of that and try and go through to there and try and get enough force to press this out. And it also can help if you can get some good heat on there. Unfortunately, I don't have an acetylene torch here with me. If we just can't get this though, I'll go bring one here. But we're going to try it without doing that. But I've given up all these kind of finesse methods. You know, you can try banging on the face to try and break it loose, which I will do, but that's not going to get it out. If you can see the amount of corrosion and rust, I don't know if it's on this. Yeah, it's also inside of there, and this just isn't going to come out easily. So, you know, you can try. And break it loose. And absolutely no separation at all. Feels hard to get enough force in the back here, maybe. So we're just going to go right to the big guns. First, I'm going to turn this straight. And we'll try the big guns first, see if there's any way, see if we can actually get a little bit of separation here. If we can't, then we'll revise what we're doing. Alright. So here's this breaker. We just put it on here. Like this. And we just tighten this down onto that face. Do that cylinder. So. Okay, there we go. Now we're ready to try and do some damage. So this allows us now to try and break this loose by putting some good leverage on there. And when we pound on this, that gives us good leverage pounding on it to just try and break that loose. So let's give it a try. And I don't. So we try and break the top loose first. And lo and behold, that broke it loose. Now the problem is all we're doing is breaking the top loose. So we want upward force now on the bottom of this to try and break the bottom loose. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and just hold it and see here, if just doing this, if I can get enough to actually break it loose. The other side, there was no way this was going to do it, but we'll see if it will. If you do these, I would highly recommend this tool, this breaker. And you can find these on Amazon for, yeah, we maybe got a little separation at the bottom. I think we do. But we got more at the top. So actually what I'm going to do is try and clear a little space here. I'm going to try and give ourselves just a little more at the top. And then I can wedge something in there. Yeah, how about that? I don't know if you can see that there. Probably not, but it has broken loose. But we're a long way still from getting it out. Okay. Not much. We've definitely got more at the top than we do at the bottom, although we do have some in both. Well, let's just keep going, see if we can do this. If not, what I do is I take the floor jack and I put it under this side and I put good pressure on that, and then I'll start wedging screwdrivers and things in here on the top as I get space. And then with that jack putting pressure from below, and as well as then hammering it, and then I can get a better swing on it. And the jack allows additional pressure on that to try and break it loose on the bottom. We'll see if we can do this without doing that. Now it's a pretty separation. It's in here. So I'm going to button down, not just push it back. So we're going to need 3 hands. And let's open the jack. Separation bottom, definitely still more top. So let's try and get some more bottom. See what I've done? Now we have a screwdriver, all I've done is push the top back in. So bring that back out. Alright, see if we can break it. You know what? Let's just go from there. Let's put the jack under there. More like what I want. There we go. And let's see, since we do have a little gap here, let's put a little oil down in there, a little penetrating oil. And of course, I'm almost out. Okay, here we go again. Let's see what we got. Maybe a little more on the bottom, maybe not. It's just, these just bears. There's no way around it. All right, let's see if we can get any more down here by trying to wedge this in there. Okay, there we're getting some more separation, quite a bit more at the top, and that has to loosen it up at the bottom too. So I'm going to give this a couple more whacks, and then I'll put the jack under it again, try to lift this back up and try to start working the bottom loose. As you can see, that's changed the angle on that, so we're now lower coming into the jack. Actually, that now pulled the bottom out farther. So let's give it a couple whacks on the bottom. I think we're close. There we go. We're almost there. It's moving. There. All right, that did it. And we didn't damage the plate. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up in here. Get that rust and corrosion out of there for the new hub to go in. Okay, I'm going to do a wire brush on the drill. Got some brake parts cleaner. And of course the safety glasses. You don't want this getting in your eyes when you start flipping this around. So I'm going to start with the brake parts cleaner. And just begin to clean this up in there. And when I'm done, I'll finish it off with some oil. some penetrating oil. All right, that should be plenty. This would be the spot where it might be wise to wear gloves, especially when you get some of these knuckle busters. You're getting a little bit of that brake fluid being thrown around. There we go. It's all ready to go back together. And to put it back together, you just, as they say, reverse the process, right? Okay, well, thanks for watching. Hope this helps a little bit. This isn't an easy job just because of how difficult it is to break those hubs free, but other than that, it's not too bad. And good luck with all of your projects.